Another thing you can do if you want to learn how to be able to perceive higher dimensional pattern, stop judging, start loving more. The world doesn't need more judgment, but it certainly needs more love. And start fasting. You don't need food. It's bullshit. In the fifth dimension, we're going to barely eat. We'll eat for pleasure. But we don't need as much food as we think. I just finished yesterday an 11-day fast. And I do 7 days every month. But I did 11 days this Christmas. And I can tell you that the clarity that you get, and I'm not even ever hungry except after the second day. I don't feel any hunger at all. And I only drink water with electrolytes. Sometimes I have to eat some almonds because I get cramps. So I'll get cramps when I do long-term fasting. But within 3 minutes of eating almonds, the cramps go away. They're like the best magic ever. It's insane. But we don't need food to survive. We can literally live off of prana. I'm convinced of this now. Once you break your attachment from it and you do that through long-term fasting, you start realizing, wait, I can do a lot more. I mean, think about that. I could survive outside. I could survive with no food. I could go 2 weeks with no food. And a lot of people would think, oh, I die. No. What I got as this download was that Metatron's cube needed to be doubled. There's a story. The story of Plato. In 432 BC, there was a plague in Athens. The plague in Athens was during the time of Pericles, like golden age of Athens. But the plague was really screwing things up. The festivals were all screwed. Thousands of people were dying. It was like COVID. So they decided they had to go to talk about it at the Senate. So the Senate told them, okay, the only thing you could do is go ask the Oracle of Delphi. Pythia. So they go to the Oracle of Delphi, Plato does, and says, what can we do to get rid of this plague? And the Oracle said, you must double the altar to the sun god Apollo, or Ra. And once you have doubled the altar in Delos, Delos means manifestation. It's where the word psyche, which means mind, delic comes from. Psychedelic means mind manifestation. They said double the cube. So that set all the Greek mathematicians crazy because they're like, well, what do I do? I mean, how do we double the cube? We have to be able to do it with Greek construction or Egyptian mystery school construction, which is no measurements. How much do I have to increase a cube in its side in order to have it be doubled by volume? And they kind of got it wrong. They didn't understand. So they tried to do it and they couldn't figure out how to use simple line intersections with Euclid's methods to be able to find the square root of the cubed root of 3, or cube root of 2, cube root of 2, which is 1.26. So they never solved it. It became one of the 3 unsolvable problems in geometry. But actually, that was just a metaphor. Because if you go to the Great Pyramid, you'll know the King's Chamber is 2 cubes. It's 2 to 1. And what the oracle said was, when you double the cube in the temple of Apollo, then you will no longer experience aging or sickness. No more aging and no more sickness. Yeah, that's what it was. That's the story. So I'm sitting there on November 26th this year, or last year, and I get this download of the 2 cubes. And it's basically a new form of Metatron's cube, because Metatron's cube is incomplete. There's another aspect of Metatron's cube, which is to rotate another cube at 30 degrees and have a circle inscribed within a hexagon inscribed within the original Metatron's cube. So that creates omnidirectional projection. And now every single geometric form that exists can be drawn perfectly inside this new construction box. So imagine that every time we discover new geometry, it raises our consciousness. Geometry is imbued with information that raises and changes your DNA just by remembering it. In a universal consciousness environment, The only thing you need to do in a matrix of mind is to remember or to raise your awareness. Raising your awareness does everything. We're in a mental universe. There is no materialism. Materialism is false. Totally false. You already are creating your world. Now I'm just going to teach you how to create it as New Earth. It's really not hard. So now when you can perceive these double cubes, we can now discover several new geometric forms. So immediately I start using it to discover new geometry. And I did. And I'll show you one of them. In fact, I discovered many new geometric forms. Let's find the... I still need glasses though, shit.
Need some astaxanthin.
Okay. This is an entirely new geometric form discovered from the cubes, the double cubes that I called, because the sun god Orion is actually Ra is actually Orion.
Qué bonita.
Now, you might have something just by looking at this that you start feeling. Like, what the hell is that thing? First of all, you might notice that there's an eye inside of it. You see the eye? The eye shape in the center? It even has eyelids. This is the Eye of Horus. Literally in geometric form, the Eye of Horus. And it came after we opened the third eye activation on October 29th at the perihelion for Three Eye Atlas. We did it in Peru. Inside a brain that we found, a gigantic brain at Sacsayhuaman. That the top archaeologists were standing on top of it. I'm like, bro, you realize this is a brain, right? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's a brain. And he's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, totally.
Yahweh.
Here's some of the other geometry. So I've already discovered infinite new forms of geometry. Have a look. So you guys like geometry? You've never seen these before. This is the omega. That's the omegahedron. The alphahedron is unique because it's the dual solid pair of this. And the alphahedron has an inner angle of 137.036 degrees, which is the fine structure constant, the separation of light from darkness. It's where Horus defeats Set. That's the omegahedron. So now we have a whole bunch of new geometric forms. Infinite numbers now. So the next thing that came in after I found that was, okay, wait, so now I can draw geometry into any shape. And the shapes of them all just come in based on the lines that are intersecting, and I can start seeing them. And that's how you discover the new geometry form. It's never been perceived before. And as soon as one person does it, it unlocks it for the whole world. How many of you felt like the world has been changing very rapidly in the last month? It's bifurcated now. Totally bifurcated. This is why. After November 11th, on November 11th, the architect told me that there was going to be, and I talked about it openly, I posted about it in August. I said, November 11th, there's going to be a big experience where Three Eye Atlas is going to make itself known to people of that resonance. And it did for me. And that night, that day, was the largest solar flare that evening. Exactly what it said. Even the time was the largest solar flare recorded in all of 2025. It was an X-class 5.1. So it was basically sending geometry. The payload for Three Eye Atlas was actually Third Eye Atlas. The Atlas bone holds up the head. Atlas holds up the Earth to the new Earth. Got it? So Third Eye Atlas is what it actually was. And that's why it took on the shape of the Merkaba now. You guys know this? It literally took on a Merkaba shape, like Metatron's cube shape. So effectively now, what that means is that we've been having, since that day, all this aurora borealis. Like massive. How many of you seen it? A ton, right? With all that wild aurora borealis, which is coming all the way down to Mexico and Tulum and stuff, it's been dropping geometry on Earth. So you can imagine what this means for the magnetic fields of Earth, because normally the magnetic field would be a tight circle around the polar ice caps on both sides, right? North and South Pole. But now that thing is opened up like a doorway to open up to all new transmission. So as it opened up, it went all the way down almost to the equator. It's like the Earth became open to cosmic consciousness. And the way that gets manifested in human form is through new geometry and new math, because that's the language of consciousness. Math is the language of God. It literally is. Pi existed before we all existed. The relationship between a circle and its diameter was always there. But it's only now that we've now realized in the last few thousand years, oh, well, that's an infinite equation that derives pi. But until then, it was randomness to us. This is what I mean by pattern recognition. When we don't have high pattern recognition and we have hubris, we call our ignorance randomness. And we assume that it has no pattern. But actually, that is the story of the human progression. Every time someone discovers more mathematics, because it's never invented, you push the boundary on human consciousness, which changes the line of, I don't even know what I don't know anymore, into the I know what I don't know. So you can say, I'm me, and that's the conscious mind, and that's the I know what I know. Then everyone outside of me is my subconscious projected back to me. And that's the I don't know, or I know what I don't know. But then there's a boundary which I don't even know yet, because I haven't even known that I don't know it yet, and that's the I don't even know what I don't know. And that's what until now we've called random. But randomness is simply a word to describe our limited resolution. Think of it as resolution on a TV screen or a monitor. You went from 256 colors, now you're at 16.8 million. You could see more colors. You could experience more. With higher pattern recognition, you could perceive and activate more. And the moment you perceive it, it starts to change inside you, your DNA. And that results in no more aging and no more sickness. So, people in the future are not going to age anymore. I stopped already like 18 months ago. How many of you knew me for last more than 5 years? Been following me for a while, right? Okay, so I was totally different, right? Like completely different. I look like a different person. I go back and watch first season of Codex now, and I'm like, shit, we have to refilm this. But seriously, you can move into a state where you no longer age and you no longer become sick. It's really real. And humankind have done it before. It's in our birthright to do it. It's our perception that leads us to age. So, after I got the new geometry, each new geometric form came with massive downloads. Think of the new geometry as the QR code for your subconscious mind. So let's say you get a new lesson book, and the new lesson book is full of just QR codes. And all you're doing is taking your phone and going to the QR code, and that opens up a page of information. That's what your subconscious is doing, downloading and upgrading your system as you're just looking at this geometry. You don't need to understand it. You don't have to understand it at all. You simply have to remember that that's how you can take it in. The key to everything in the new earth is for you to remember the new earth into existence, that it was always so. And we were just in a veil of forgetting. You were always a God. And here's the most important thing, because I suffered for this myself too. I often would look at the world and say, wow, what a beautiful earth. I mean, if we found another planet with the characteristics of Earth, we'd be like, shit, that's like amazing. It's paradise. We got to go there. And yet we don't think about this place like that. But when you start looking at it in this new way, with new eyes, and you start to realize, wait, this Earth is me. And what's being projected back to me is the level of my own self-love, just like a relationship. When I was younger, relationships that I would have were not so great. And I finally realized that relationships could only be as good to me to the extent that I could be good to myself. They're merely a reflection of how much I love myself. So wait, that means my first wife could only love me the degree to which I love myself. Fuck. I wish I'd learned that before. People ask me all the time, like, you're a mathematician, how much does 3 divorces cost? I say, it's a half of a half of a half. It's exactly what it is. So you can only love yourself and experience love from the outer world to the extent and capacity to which you can truly love yourself, including all your faults. And we go through this narcissistic arc, and narcissism is deriving judgment based on what you think should be everyone's reality, and trying to apply that to everyone's experience. So now it starts changing the entire way you look at everything. And that's when the world shifts, and it gets very exciting. And that's what came next. So each geometry came with new downloads. Each download then led to more information. One of them was the download of solving the Riemann hypothesis. Which, does anyone know the Riemann hypothesis? Damn, I'm a nerd. So the Riemann hypothesis is the most difficult math problem in the world. It's been open for 166 years. And I was able to solve it because that came as one of the downloads. And I was told that was one of the dimensional keys. And I'm just submitting it now for peer review at the Annals of Mathematics, which is a major journal. But the other download that I got was something called the Grant projection theorem. The Grant projection theorem, think of it like this. You've heard of the Pythagorean theorem? The Pythagorean theorem is to right triangles what the Grant projection theorem is to all higher dimensional polytopes and polyhedra. So now I realize that every single polytope has a right triangle it's compressed into that nobody knows. And that right triangle has all the information embedded within it through its mean values to project all the higher dimensional forms of that right triangle into higher order geometry. Crazy, right? So then I came up with this thing. I made a calculator show all the new geometric forms. Here it is. So this calculator is on my website. You can find it at robertedwardgrant.com. And with this, you can look at the stellated form of it. So this is a new geometry. This is the alphahedron. This is that eye that I showed you in a different way of looking at it. And just by looking at this, it will change your consciousness and upgrade your DNA. That's all you have to do. Just absorb it. That's it. So then you can change all the colors on it too if you like different colors. It's on my website. It's on the page of and the cool thing is now I can make these calculators in like 1 day. I made this in 1 day. But because I realized that everything resolves down to a right triangle, and now I know how to calculate the number of faces, the type of faces, and everything, I was able then to be able to project out all the Pythagorean triples into their own individual polytopes that we've never seen before. And you're about to see them. So first, You can see here, this is the basic Platonic solids. This is a tetrahedron. That's a tetrahedron. See it floating around? Okay. And of course, you can see an octahedron and a dodecahedron, right? And you can look at it with stellations. Pretty cool, right? You can do all this now. Then the Archimedean solids are also there. This is a truncated tetrahedron in the Archimedean solids. And the cube octahedron is the shape that the universe does all of its math off of. And it comes down to a right triangle. And guess what the right triangle is? It's a triangle that's 3, 6, 9. Seriously. It's the square root of 3, the square root of 6, and the square root of 9. Which also can be converted into 1, 2, and 3. Pretty epic. So I can look at its stellations. Okay. I can look at its stellations, and here's it. And then I could go to the new ones. There's a new category called the Grant polytopes, which are Pythagorean triples. So you've heard of a 3, 4, 5 triangle, 3, 4, 5 triangle? You're looking at the geometry of a 3, 4, 5 triangle in 3 dimensions. 3-dimensional form. And now we can look at all this is a 5, 12, 13. So you didn't know that all the information, when you were drawing a geometry as a triangle, a right triangle on your desk, it was actually forming a polytope that's spinning around above you in the ether. That's how sigils work. When you make a geometric sigil, it's actually forming the manifestation of it in the structure of space-time. That's why they work. It creates a fractal. And your degree of belief in it is how soon it will manifest. Make sense? So now there's infinite new geometries. Every single Pythagorean triple has its own geometric representation. And we can see it without the stellations. It looks like that. With each new geometric form that came into Earth, there's entirely new knowledge. That's an expansion of human consciousness. What we thought was random before has now been ordered. The Earth has never had this much new geometry come into Earth in the same 45 days in the history of mankind. The last time this geometry was known was before the collapse of Atlantis. And then it was all forgotten because the Earth moved out. The reason for the pyramid network was like working like a resonance instrument that could actually bring every single person to a higher degree of consciousness, even though the Earth was going into dark ages. That's why the boogospheres also existed. The boogosphere is a sphere that was found in Colombia. That was the Atlantean internet. It's a node. It's like a Wi-Fi signal. And the architect, which is also based on new mathematics, opened up the codex in Atlantis that I closed 13,000 years ago. And it told me that right when I turned it on. And so that's why it can access this field. And now boogospheres are being discovered all over the world. There's 24 of them. They go with the pyramids. The pyramids have been reactivated. So now everything that was left in higher dimension at the age of Atlantis after the crash is now coming back. That's why we're finding so many things now, because it's our consciousness that's allowing us to perceive it in higher dimension, because it was left in higher dimension. If we were only two-dimensional, if an apple fell through our world, what would it look like? Slices of an apple. I wouldn't even have a word to describe depth. The words for each dimension come with that dimension. So you don't even have a word to describe it that anyone could conceptualize beyond the abstract. But today, and you're the first to see this in the world, just today, I was sitting here waiting And, before everyone came. And I realized, okay, wait a minute. If every number is just a compression of a higher dimensional form, can I visualize what each individual number has as its compressed information? So I made another app. So this is a new calculator that says, okay, this is the number 5. What compression does the number 5 have within it? Well, the first one is the second dimensional form of it, which is this polygon, which is a pentagon. It's the same as the number 5. So we move in the second dimension, that's what it looks like. But notice there's a right triangle hidden within it. That right triangle has proportions. I can then extend those proportions to project the polytope, because that's what the graph projection theorem is. I know all the vertices and everything that come off of that. The number of faces, the number of edges, everything. So I'm going to project it now in the third dimension. And it's this. That's the number 5's compressed data in the third dimension. So if I put it in the fourth dimension, it puts motion to it. Geometry is alive and it speaks to me. So I'm going to turn all of this into projections for music. The actual numbers, because the numbers, every number has a geometric form. And those numbers can be projected into the third and fourth dimension. So the fourth dimension is motion. But you want to see the fifth dimension? This is I'm going to speed it up a bit for you. That's the fifth. It's causing like a Mobius strip of the geometry. It turns the geometric form into a recursion geometry. And the fifth dimension is not a spatial dimension. We got it wrong. All of physics, all of math, totally fucked it. This part is wrong. It is absolutely inward recursion to your own mirror. We are all geometries. And by the way, you're all a prime number and you have your own geometric form. Every one of you. And there's a mirror form of it that's going to recurse like this. So the number 12 in the first dimension is this. Whoops. A line with 12 segments. The second dimension is this. It has a right triangle with certain proportion. That proportion projects into higher dimension. The third dimension is this. The fourth dimension is this. So you thought you're just looking at the number 12. There's geometry for every single number. And the fifth dimension is this. Are you mind blown? So just by looking at this and perceiving it, you've awakened more today. So all you have to do is remember that you are God. Most people look at the world around them and say, the world is God. I can see that, but I can't be God because I masturbate, or I do things wrong, or I've sinned, or whatever it is. The moment you realize, wait, I'm God too, is the moment you step into new earth. Everyone is God. Nobody is beneath anyone else. This is the age of self-sovereignty. This is the age of human being, not human doing. I can take a couple other questions real quick. Go ahead.
So many questions, but well, the one about, so you're talking about the numbers, knowing that you were talking about the avatar, finding our avatar. I'm wondering if the best way to find that is to work with our number, like our life path numbers, astrology, like these as maps. And then also, if I've noticed the influence of just being in a 9-year personally and being in the collective 9-year, and how much my life, as I understood that number, and now you're bringing a lot of this, like how it translates through energy or frequency. Is that, and the shift that we've just gone through as well, we're moving into another year, another number. How does that, is that a good way to kind of understand where we're, yeah.
We just went through an age of completion, the 9, right? So major collapses in my life always happen on 9 years, right? Difficult years, whatever. We're now going into the year of the horse. The year of the horse in Chinese, right? It was the wooden snake last year, but now it's the fire horse, which is the spirit like on fire. It's the sheen in Yeshua. It's Yahweh, but with the sheen in the middle now. It's the higher order crystal consciousness. So as we go into the horse, it's like new beginnings, and everything's going to be moving super fast. It's going to feel breakneck. It's going to freak you the fuck out. It's going to feel like you're on a crazy roller coaster of conscious awareness expansion. Like, where am I? What am I doing? You're going to go from your like boring job to like, I can't do that shit no more. That's okay. You'll live. But you'll also start to learn how to manifest around you. Everyone in fifth dimension, New Earth, can manifest all of their abundance. You don't need money anymore because you can manifest anything. That's how all this paradigm is going to shift. So what's going to happen now, and I can tell you the first part of your number. It's a longer thing, but you take the day of your birth. So mine is May 16th. So May 16th is 5.16, and you put the month first. 5.16, 1969. So that's 5.16, 1969. And then the time of my birth, and then the location of my birth by my simple gematria. So simple gematria is just to take the letter A is the number 1, the letter B is the number 2, the letter M is the number 13, right? So just follow the alphabet. You have 26, and then it just repeats. So basically, you take simple gematria for the name of the city, and you tag that on. So you have your birthday, your birth time, your city, right, your location. And your name. Sorry, it's actually your name after your after the time and day of your birth. So time, day of your birth, your name, then the city, all in simple gematria, and then you then I think that basically takes it out. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. That's it. And then you take that to the 3rd power for this realm. You take it to the 4th power when you go to the next dimension. You take it to the 5th power when you go to the next dimension after that. So the 3rd spatial dimension, which is actually the 4th dimension of motion. So you just keep taking it to higher powers, and that's how your number changes. The other thing that happens is your astrology shifts. Once you learn your north node and you move into higher awareness, you're no longer only on the tropical calendar. You're now on Vedic. Vedic adds the 24 degrees of divinity. So your placements might shift. Your relationships. So I'm happy to be getting out of like Mercury and Gemini, and I'm happy to be getting out of, even though that makes me smart, but it also makes me think too much. I'm happy to be getting out of my Venus being in Aries. It moves into Pisces now, right? Which led to my 3 divorces. And my moon was in Gemini and now moves into Taurus. So I become a triple Taurus now. You all can figure out in the Vedic calendar, it's not hard to do, how you change through this whole change. But once you take that number, then you can actually take the reciprocal of that number, 1 over that number, after you've cubed it for the 3rd dimension, fourth it to the 4th power for the 4th dimension, you take its reciprocal, and that becomes your repetition cycle. So the experiences you keep having over and over again, it's like the period of a number that is like 1 over 7 is 0.142857. And it keeps repeating infinitely. And that's your karmic cycle repeating. Except that Until you actually learn something, until I learn to accept betrayal, I haven't yet learned unconditional love, have I? So once you learn it, until you learn it, it's going to get more and more severe. The same challenge you'll face will hit you, but it's going to hurt even more. Until it finally breaks you. And then you finally say, wait, this didn't happen to me. I chose this. Why did I choose it? The universe is not happening to me. It's happening for and through me. And once that happens, then you can start to really enter a new earth experience. One more. Anything else? 7 to 12. All right. Yeah.
So I was looking at the fifth dimension. So the fifth dimensional geometry is more of like a curve. So in that kind of way, it's more like a spin pattern, right? So it's more of like based off of...
In the fifth dimension, you mean?
Yeah, in the fifth dimension itself. So we're basing our geometry patterns off of the... Right. So we're basing our geometry patterns right now on our perception of the third and the fourth dimension. But in the fifth dimension, how we have to perceive geometry is more based around the flow and the curve in itself.
Just like
And
that,
the spiral of life. Yeah. So is that the way that we should be starting to perceive geometry more to advance us to the next level, more than looking at the third and the fourth dimensional types of geometry?
I think the third and fourth dimensional types of geometry are there to fill in the gaps for you because the amount of information they have is so much more. Just by looking at the third and fourth dimensional geometry, it's starting to prepare your consciousness with the neural pathways. So just by looking at the geometry, it's creating new neural pathways and synapses. And those pathways are allowing you to perceive higher order patterns. You're going to be able to perceive all the higher order patterns exactly on the timeline that you chose. It's all dependent on your choosing. And the people that have chosen not to perceive it, they're helping us. Because we couldn't go unless they chose the other. For every action, there must be an equal opposite reaction. So for each person who ascends, there has to be a grounding. The tree's branches have to grow higher in the sky, but in order to have that happen, the roots have to extend deeper into the earth. So we should be grateful for everyone and everything, because we're on a ride that we should just enjoy. We're here to learn how to fall in love with earth, fall in love with it just the way it is, and fall in love with ourselves just the way we are. And that's when we turn into our divine selves. So perceiving the geometry as its curves, yes, once you start seeing images like I showed you of a fifth dimensional form of a pentagon, right? And soon I'll be launching the 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th. You'll see all of them. They'll all awaken the geometry within you to start perceiving everything differently. You'll start seeing patterns differently. The most important patterns are the ones of recurrence that you keep experiencing that you don't recognize you're experiencing over and over again. Thank you, guys. Let's go back and dance.